raiskaan sut. Tiedän missä asut. Jos joku katsoo mua kadulla, mä mietin, tunnistiko se mut.
Se mitä ne haluu, on et mä hiljennyn. Tiesin, että mun on noustava. Mun äänellä on merkitystä.
Siellä on aina ihminen, sen puhelimen takana.
This is how girls get equal.
Dear Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. We represent the 14,000 girls from 22 countries who spoke to Plan International about online abuse. We are urgently asking you to work with us to end online harassment on your platforms. We love them. They're a huge part of our daily lives. We use them not just to connect with friends, but to lead and create change. But they are not safe for us. We get harassed and abused on them every single day. We are physically threatened, racially abused, sexually harassed, and body shamed. Online violence is serious. It causes real harm, and it's silencing our voices. As this global pandemic moves our lives online, we are more at risk than ever. Did you know that 50% of us face more online harassment than street harassment? And 42% of us lose self-esteem or confidence as a result. Online violence shapes our identity while telling us what's wrong with our identity. Girls are harassed for their ethnicity and race. And girls who identify as LGBTIQ+ are harassed for being themselves. We are told if we can't handle the harassment, we shouldn't be on social media. That's messed up. We shouldn't have to cope and shrink ourselves in an unfair system. The world needs to stop normalizing online violence. We know that many of you are taking steps to make your platforms safer. That's awesome. Thank you. But right now, it's not enough. Girls in all our diversity need to know that when we're abused and threatened online, we can report it and you'll take action. Our practical solution? Be our allies. Speak to us, listen to our experiences. Work with us to create stronger reporting mechanisms for violence that meet girls' needs and hold perpetrators to account. The time to act is now. So girls are free to be online. We'll be waiting for your call.
Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome here from Hamburg to you all over the world to the second day of the first Girls Get Equal Life Summit online this year, in this special year 2020. My name is Charlotte Mayhoff. I'm a German news anchor, and I'm very happy to be your host tonight and to discuss about some very important questions we have on the agenda this year, which are access to ICT for girls and women, protection for girls and women online, but also, of course, the new opportunities, the possibilities ICT, web, social networks open up for girls and women and their fight for equality. And of course, I'm very happy to have Maike Röttger here with me, CEO of Plan International Germany. Maike, we're talking in a minute. I just have to say, before we start, please let me explain. We have to speak a little slower as usual sometimes, or better take little breaks from time to time for the simultaneous translation in French and German. And a big thank you at this point to our translators who help us tonight. Pour ceux en français qui préfèrent le français, il y a un stream Zoom. Vous trouvez le lien dans la description là-dessus. Und auf Deutsch nochmal, es gibt auch einen Zoom-Stream auf Deutsch. Den Link dazu, den findet ihr in der Beschreibung zu diesem Video. So, und jetzt können wir loslegen. Okay, Maike, let's start with your feelings about these 2 days, yesterday and today. Usually we have about 150 participants on site in Berlin. Usually, so how do you feel about this first Girls Get Equal Summit online?
Well, my level of excitement is still high up because, I mean, it is and was very exciting to organize this first Global Girls Summit digital. I mean, it also makes sense to talk about online harassment and have an online event around this. And of course, the huge opportunity is and was that we can connect the global community. We did discuss yesterday with girls all over the world, activists all over the world, and we will continue today.
So what did you like most? Is there any favorite?
Yes, I was very impressed by the strength of these young activists also to tell about their harassment, and we will talk about this later, but this level of harassment, what they experience online is huge. And I mean, if they tell us, of course, they experience this again, but it was so important because it gives us a picture of what is happening there, and also that they told us, well, this is seen as something very normal. So people think this is it can be like this. And so that means we really have to change social norms and we have to change thinking. And yes, so let's get into action.
Okay, and to learn a little bit more about this day yesterday, to see how the day went, the first day of this Girls Get Equal Life Summit, let's have a look at the best of video.
We are about to celebrate the International Day of the Girl Child on October 11th. Today, we're focusing on Plan International's latest report, The State of the World's Girls Report, Free to be Online.
So this International Day of the Girl, we're shining a light on the harassment and abuse girls and young women face on social media. For girls and young women, no place is safe. Girls are targeted online just because they're young and female. What we really need to do is to listen to the girls. Girls and young women are calling for change. It's really up to all of us. We all have to get a bit uncomfortable before all girls can get comfortable.
We're moving on to a panel discussion with Ceci, Hannah, and Daisy.
I have been harassed and threatened on various channels. I mean, how should you really develop your self-esteem or your self-respect?
women need to be protected, also in social media and by social media.
Companies, they should know how we feel as girls and young women in our respective. Social media are not bad as such, but they are used in a bad way.
Online violence is so serious and it causes real harm and it's silencing our voices. And we should never let this violence, this online hate, stop us from speaking up about what we truly believe in.
We need an internet where everybody is feeling safe and at ease and not exposed to violence.
Well, I want to hear about your biggest takeaways and some of the content from the workshops.
So we talked a lot about our bodies, but also our emotions. My biggest takeaway was that self-care is not selfish, but that we actually needed to make our activism more sustainable.
Definitely new to me was the realization that something such as a chatbot can be a very powerful feminist tool in spreading ideas or maybe educating persons about that same topic.
I would share with my friends, if you can't find together within 3 answers, the chances that you will ever find together are really low. So stop wasting your energy and just leave it like that.
What is the conclusion from an online event?
I was just fascinated to see how easily we could bring together a worldwide community. I mean, there is some logic in it to present a report on freedom online and to do it online. We can use this medium as a tool to even become stronger feminists. Let's stay as powerful as we have been today.
So now we got some impressions of the day yesterday, and Maike is still with us, CEO of Plan International Germany. And Maike, by the way, do you know how many people joined yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday it were around 1,000 all over the world, which is great because we would never have reached them sitting in one room. So
yes, of course.
we sat in several rooms yesterday all over the world, and great to discuss this important topic with such a global community.
So let's say some advantage that coronavirus might bring us in the end, if there's one. Maybe something.
Yeah, well, in that sense, it pushed us a lot to try it this way.
We have to talk about that later. So let's now talk about the important questions you discussed yesterday and we are going to discuss today. Access. What are, in your opinion, and after your survey, the most important barriers preventing girls worldwide to get access to ICT in general?
Well, first of all, the technical equipment, of course. I mean, we are worldwide. We don't have the very quick access to how we are used it. So we have our mobile phone in our pocket. On the other hand, we shouldn't underestimate the level of use. I think every second the community, the social internet community is growing. And there are huge opportunities in there for information, for helping the girls to shout out, to be activists, to fight for their rights. And now what we can see through this harassment is that some parents get so scared about letting their girls and young women into this new medium that they would say, well, we can't give you any device. We don't want that. And this is This is a little bit like
the boys get one.
And the boys get one, yeah.
Okay.
So that was actually what they told us, and this is you can compare it a little bit with our experience is also that sometimes parents say, well, you girl, you can't go to school because the way to school is far too dangerous for you. Now we have a new medium. We have the same reactions in it. So.
Okay, this brings us to the next important topic, like safety and protection online. What is it that makes us unsafe to be online for young girls and young women?
Well,
especially
what makes it
after your
unsafe
survey.
is
Yes.
that they are female and that they are young.
Mhm.
So
That's important to understand.
Yeah, this is the only reason why they get harassed. And what we also saw in this survey was that the more they're active, the more they stand up for their rights, the more they get harassed, the more pressure is on them. And then they start, some of them, changing their behaviors. So they would not shout out, they would not position themselves so much again, perhaps against child marriage, against gender-based violence. Some of them really also leave the social media, and some of them sort of are standing up and saying no.
Okay.
I want to be myself, and no one can stop me being that.
Okay, and is this something you see all over the world, or is there something especially in Europe, in Germany? As I have read, we have like 70% girls harassed in Germany, so the number is a little bit higher than worldwide. Is there an explanation for that?
Yeah, the worldwide number is 58%, so I mean it's generally high. I think the explanation we could have, we haven't had any voices around this, is that there is also more education around social media in Germany, so the girls would know what to do once they are harassed, and they would also be strong enough to really tell us. All over the world, which is good, but all over the world, this is different. So a girl in South Sudan would never know where to go to if she is harassed. This is very different.
Okay, so let's now talk about the opportunities, because there are not only disadvantages, of course. There are big opportunities too that are offered by ICT and social media for young women for their fight for equality. So what do you think?
Well, huge opportunities. I mean, this is a new medium for information with easy access for information. So and cheap, and especially now when what we experience in this pandemic times, when I mean now we have, in some stage we had more than 740 million girls out of school, so out of physical school. So this access means information and education. So if you silence them again, and if you keep them out of this, again, this is discrimination. And it's only because they are female and they are young. There's no other reason, just to repeat that again.
Okay, and we have to fight that, and we will, be sure. Maike, thank you. CEO, Plan International Germany, thank you for the moment. We will see each other later again on stage, because we have a little Q&A session via Mentimeter right after the panel. So Mentimeter is that what we're going to use now, but for another purpose, which start with something other, like, as Maike said, we had guests all over the world, and now too, you are listening us from all over the world, and we want to know, where are you from? So please go to the website menti.com and enter the following code. It's 618264. I repeat, 618264, and please enter for us where you're from. We'll be back in 2 minutes. and we are back, and let's have a look at the results. So I see Germany, Deutschland, of course, and France, Colombia, Southern America. We have, of course, a lot from Europe, Belgium. I see Belarus. Welcome, a warm welcome to Belarus. We have Venezuela, a special welcome to Nordheide. Ghana, of course, and from Africa also, Benin, Kenya. So I think in total it must be more than 20 different countries you are joining us from. Thank you. We are very happy to have you all here with us. So, part of Plan International's way of working is to actively involve young people. In many Plan countries, there are so-called youth advisory panels. These are young people who work on human rights and advise Plan offices to make sure that youth have their voice. For Girls Get Equal Life Summit, members of the German Youth Advisory Panel have recorded their thoughts and opinions. Let's listen to them.
Social media platforms can be toxic. A lot of activists face harassment and hate speech when speaking up online. This adds up with discrimination against their gender, sexuality, race, or ability. We need our governments to better protect victims of hate speech and online harassment, and to make sure they get all the support they need. Social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram need to have strong community guidelines on that behalf, strong reporting mechanisms, and make sure there are consequences for the perpetrators.
The Girls Get Freedom online report clearly shows that we have a problem with unequal access to the internet and online harassment. Governments and social media platforms therefore need to collect more data on gender-based violence and unequal access to the internet in order to take informed steps to tackle these issues, while including young women and girls and all their diversity in this process.
The lack of women in the ICT sector must be counteracted. Female role models are crucial to empowering girls and women to claim their space online and in the tech sector. We ask all businesses in the ICT sector to champion girls and women, to pay them equally, and to make them and their work visible. Social media platforms should actively support a positive representation of girls and women as strong, empowered individuals, and crack down sexist and misogynist ads and posts.
58% of 14,000 surveyed girls from 31 countries have experienced online harassment. 1 in 4 girls feels physically unsafe. We need more awareness and education programs about online harassment, how to prevent it, and how to protect oneself, so that we can make social media platforms a safe space to share your opinions, ideas, and information.
Worldwide, 215 million fewer women than men have access to the internet due to lack of digital skills, a lack of female role models in the ICT sector, affordability, as well as social norms. Having access to the internet is an important factor for equal opportunities in, for example, jobs, information access, etc. The Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation needs to have a gender focus in every program concerning digitalization and to aim towards better access to the internet for girls and women.
Okay, and now let's talk about all that on our panel. And we have some guests, I hope, too. Yeah, 2 of them are here, so we start with them. So we have Aissatou Salifou from Benin, blogger and activist. And at Plan's Girls Out Loud initiative, she is studying information and communication Her blog is about her life as well as gender equality and the empowerment of girls and young women. And we have Tokosile Mia. She is also a program manager of Girl Hype, a non-profit company that aims to teach girls from townships coding. And one of her projects is e-skills for girls in cooperation with the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. We'll learn about that later. So as long as we are missing one person for the moment, we will start with you two. Please, Aisha too, present yourself to us. What are you doing and what is the most important thing in your life at the moment?
Aïchatou, jeune blogueuse, activiste pour le respect des droits des femmes et des
I'm a blogger. I'm an activist for women's and girls' rights. I study information and communication technology in Benin. And for me, the most important thing in my life is to live in a world where there is zero tolerance for violence against girls and women. That's the most important point. Thank you.
We are working on this for sure. And let's move to Tokosila. She is still there, yeah. Tokosila, please present yourself a little bit to us and talk about your work.
Hi, hello, I'm Thokozile Mia. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, and I am currently working in the rapid acceleration and employment of women and girls into the ICT sector, curbing unemployment as well as various other youth community issues, but specifically working in skills development by bridging partnerships, global partnerships and skills partnerships, which are digitally enabling literacy, digital e-skills, and technology information around safety, data access for youth, for female youth in South Africa, for greater employment opportunities, working with corporates, government, private sector, SMMEs, for the greater inclusion of women into the technology economy.
Okay, and as long as we're waiting for our third panel member, I want to explain that you have the possibility to ask questions. It's via Mentimeter, again, via menti.com, and you will find the code. Where will you find the code? Yeah, here it is. This is the old code. Please, could someone tell me the code again? Then I will tell it to the others, because I'm not sure if it's in the caption down there. You can look, I can. But you can ask questions for a Q&A. So if there's anything you hear and you want to ask a question about that, please write it to us, and then we will have a little Q&A session at the end of this panel. And maybe I should repeat one explanation I've said at the beginning of this evening. We have translators, so Aisha too speaks French. So that means that we have to wait a little bit for the translation. So this is why there are little breaks when we are talking. Okay, let's start with the first topic we are talking about this evening. It's access. And Aisha too, as a blogger and a young activist, what are your personal experiences with access to ICT? Please tell us a little bit about that. And was it easy for you to start your own blog in Benin?
J'avoue que ce n'était pas du tout facile de créer un blog au Bénin.
Well, I have to admit that it's not easy at all to start a blog in Benin, because first of all, the problem was that I had no internet access because it costs an awful lot of money. And it's really high costs associated with having internet access. If you want to have a blog, you of course need online access. That was one problem. And then writing for a young woman or a girl is difficult. You know, it's difficult for the environment of a girl to accept that she's a writer. She must not be a writer. She must not publish on the internet. She must not express herself. She must not voice her opinion. This is nothing that corresponds to our social norms. So basically, girls are not supposed to have internet access and to express and voice their opinion. So every time there's somebody who says it's impossible, you're not allowed to do that, your opinion will not be accepted, you will get feedback including sexist remarks and misogynist remarks, and they will send out suggestive photos to you. So it was very difficult to start my own blog in Benin. And when I was getting started, it meant a high psychological burden for me. I got many hints that hurt me, and it was very difficult to deal with these comments that were also sent to me via Facebook. So it was difficult to set up this blog and to fill it with content, but right now I'm so happy to be a writer online, and psychologically I've been trained to sustain this type of comments. Thank you.
Yes, and how did you manage to solve all these problems? You got some supporters, as far as I know.
Oui. On a reçu une formation
Yes, I did.
cyberharcèlement de plan international.
Actually, we
Lors de cette formation, on nous a
got
appris
training
soigner
with the help of
notre
Plan
image
International,
sur les réseaux sociaux,
and
et
they
aussi
taught us
apprendre
how
à se protéger en
to
ligne. Donc,
present
c'est grâce à ça
ourselves
que j'ai renforcé
online
ma
and how to
protection au niveau
protect
de
ourselves.
mon blog et au niveau de
And
ma
this
page
really
Facebook
helped
pour
me
ne plus
to
recevoir
feel safer with my own blog and my Facebook page. And these misogynist comments, I don't even receive them anymore. And if I do, I simply leave it as it is. I don't even react to them. I don't answer them, and I leave them as they are.
Okay, Aishatu, thank you. Tokosila, you empower young girls and young women to take up STEM professions and to use ICT. Please tell us about your work, and in your opinion, what are the biggest obstacles for girls and young women in this sector?
All right. So having taken part in, I just want to say, having taken part in skills development for many years, there's become one element which has thrown itself into the works as the most relevant, which is that the technology industry is burgeoning. It's what is being termed as the fourth industrial revolution. We are at the cusp of a burgeoning Silicon Valley boom, with great technology strides taken in telecommunications, in communications infrastructure, and in the way we use technology, with the development of the telephone, the smartphone, and we're now moving on to AI, machine learning, and into a sector where technology is no longer at the cusp of humanity, but where humanity is now at the cusp of technology. It's become so important for women to become greater impacted, greater involved and infiltrated into the technology ecosystems around the world, into the global networks. So with that having been said, one of the barriers, I would say the greatest challenges is in terms of an infrastructural commitment. That's from government side. But if we're going to get to a societal norm in terms of creating greater opportunities for women within the technology landscape, it's important for us to understand three concepts. One, the internet. What does the internet mean? where can we access the internet, how is the internet becoming available, and writing policy on the internet which is able to be inclusive, which meets the requirements for greater functional, operational civil society, and also in terms of being able to write content which is suitable once that internet infrastructure has been set up. And that comes at a family level, at a school level, at a governmental level, at every sector and level in society to be able to provide an internet accessible. Secondly, it's an understanding, it's a social understanding, a social contract, where society is under the same impressions that there is an opportunity for women to be able to access information, to give women a voice both offline and online, to end the women's oppression, to end the suppression of women and the heterosexual, sexist, and misogynistic norms, which are saying that women perhaps don't have the same digital skills as men do, and the empowerment of women in technology. And also just a repositioning, to reposition technology as a fun subject that any woman is able to enjoy, and a girl from any age or any school would be able to be good at doing that subject. That a coder is a female, as a learner, is a user, is an employee, is an entrepreneur, and is a incorporative and a part of any kind of civil engagement, and to translate that into real social contractual commitments. And then the third understanding is being able to create quality education. Quality education, quality digital skills is extremely important, and we need global economic cooperation on that front to be able to provide both education, access to infrastructure, as well as to be able to commit a developing goal that is aligned and which is able to leverage of the opportunities which are available to all at the moment, but that all these opportunities have to be available to everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of where they live, regardless of their social situations, that there has to be an economic empowerment, specifically of women and girls, but an economic empowerment, a societal economic empowerment, which is cooperative, which is political, which is funded, and which comes to equitable e-skills. So here I'm talking about the e-skills program, and again, we need collaboration from all sectors of society, e-skills for girls, and then just to be able to say, okay, fine, let's create a real collaborative opportunity where everybody's going to be able to engage in the networks. And also to set up a barrier that says we no longer take this as a societal norm. We no longer accept that there will be inequality when it comes to technological access, or when it comes to fostering real access. We're not going to settle for inequality anymore. We are now going to say it's our time. It's our time to stand up. Women stand up, women unite, women lead. And that's just going to be the standard.
Please
and
let me
every
ask you.
sector of society is going to have to get to it.
Please let me ask you, what would you say, how much support do you see for that? Because you just said what politics should do, but is there support, is there real support for it in your country?
All right, so South Africa, as the technology ecosystem, I'll speak about Cape Town specifically. We've been talking about the 4th hour for, I would say, 54 years right now. To the point where people were, the projections, we had the World Economic Forum based in Cape Town in 2019, and we had various other events, and we've had representatives going to the G20, we had representatives at the UN, and it's only taken up until 2019 for the South African state to officially come on board and to introduce the 4th IR Commission and to introduce the 4th IR starting up. So I will say that government is extremely late to the technological conversations in South Africa, and that does lead to a marginalization of society in terms of understanding both access and understanding both the critical points for future mapping. And so, yes, there is an acknowledgement from government side, there is an acknowledgement from the state side. our president, Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, has already said that the fourth IR is a solution to understanding societal problems in South Africa, including the technological access, including overcoming gender-based violence, including overcoming violations of human rights which happen in South Africa, including overcoming a understanding of unequitable economic distribution. And just so there is government side, but I definitely think that the one area that South Africa is lacking, and this is because I sit on boards, I sit on understandings with people who research into this topic as much as I do. And one thing that's come about from them is just to say, although there is a government understanding, there's no funding for this currently happening in South Africa.
But how would you solve this problem? Where do you get the money for it if there's no funding?
This is the conversation that we're having, and at the end of the day, it's going to corporates and it's going to other governments and it's going to world forums and asking them, is this available? And it's up to South Africa as a country to go on that walk and
okay.
Not door to door, meeting to meeting.
Yes, okay. Let's ask Aisha too about the situation in Benin. Are you, let's say, satisfied, or what do you think is there some progress in Benin concerning these obstacles we've talked about?
Au Bénin, non, il n'y a pas encore eu d'avancement au niveau de cet obstacle que nous rencontrons au niveau de l'accessibilité. Je me rappelle qu'en 2017, il y avait eu des tasses sur les faits sur les mots que nous recevons.
And of course, there are obstacles on the other hand, and we have young women and girls who are really hampered in their efforts, and we want to pay less taxes, and I know that there are obstacles. For example, last time when I visited a community in Benin, there was not even an internet access possibility. In other words, we were not even able to go online. I talked to 2 pregnant women and they did not even have possibilities of getting information online concerning their pregnancies. And of course, there is Facebook, but of course, you still need the possibility to connect to the internet in order to make use of Facebook. So we do need online access, we need internet access in order to freely express ourselves in Benin. This is our situation.
And your parents, are they supporting you?
Non.
No, they're not. They're not. Not really. Because a girl, according to them, would not need any access to the internet. After graduating from school, I learned various things. I really learned from walking from A to B to get to where I wanted to get in life. My parents don't even know that I spend so much time on the internet. They don't even know what I do. And, well, I did a scientific school-leaving certificate. I wanted to study telecommunications. I wanted to learn how to code. And I wanted to explore this digital world. So my parents weren't able to fund my university course. So it was just logical to them that a girl would just get married anyway. And in our country, a girl's parents will not take her along as she moves in this direction, because being on the internet means to waste your time, basically. And I wasn't really getting on very well with my mum because, of course, I had learned to focus. I really, really wanted to do it. I wanted to obtain certain information. I wanted to have this option to go for a scientific career or for a career as a researcher. And with my own story, I trained myself.
Wow, that's tough. Where do you get the strength to do that?
J'ai commencé l'activisme à 13 ans.
Actually, when I was 13 years old, I became an activist. I joined a group at a school where my conscience was first formed on this. I wanted to go for a goal. I wanted to be a role model. And every time I saw a hurdle on the way forward, I would think, okay, this goal must be bigger than the obstacle I overcame before this one. And I just moved on. And of course, I had my difficulties. And people are underestimating our strength. But there's people around me who help me and support me. And they say, okay, you're a girl. But I have friends and they tell me, you're right, you can do so much, develop yourself. And that's the way it goes.
Okay, that's cool. But what would you say? Is it like, of course, it's always too small, such a movement, but is it like a little movement that is coming up at the moment? Or would you say it's just me and 3 friends? Or would you say with the next generation in Benin, it's already changing a little bit?
Je dis que ce sont des organisations internationales qui nous accompagnent.
Well, these are international organizations who support us here locally. It's youth projects, for example. I am a member to one of those international NGOs. And when we run these projects amongst friends, we hold workshops, for example, and we're led, we receive guidance, we've undergone training. I'm not on my own.
Okay, and now I get the message that Dr. Christmann has joined us. A warm welcome. Where have you been?
Yeah, I had to be in the plenary session, as I'm so sorry being late, but we had a discussion and had to say goodbye to a colleague, and so I wasn't able to be here earlier, but I'm very happy to be part of the discussion tonight.
Okay, welcome. So this is Anna Christmann, a German Green Party Member of Parliament and a spokesperson for digital affairs as well as for civic engagement. Welcome to our panel. So we have already started talking about access for young women and for girls, access to ICT in general and all the problems, the obstacles we see there. So what would you say? The digital gender gap exists both in the global north and in the south. We know that. Why is it that girls and women worldwide have less access to ICT, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the northern part of the world, like here in Europe, we see that it's really difficult to get girls interested in these subjects and to stay on board, like during their growing time. When they get older, they get to be interested in other things, and that's really, really hard to get them interested in these issues. And I think that is not the fault of the girls, but it's the fault of the system they are in, because we kind of they are getting lost kind of during the school system here, because it's much more interested interesting for boys who are on the schools. They typically, when they get older, when they come in a phase where they are teenager, they get to play games, to like feel attracted by all the things that have a digital tool or something in it, and girls are typically follow kind of stereotypes that our society creates, that it seems that they think it's not for them, that they are not needed. And I think that's a big issue, because it's not the case, but it's the case is that we really need girls and women in the digitalization process, because there are so many applications where it's very important that we have all perspectives, and especially the female perspective, to develop applications that are for all and not only for men. I mean, a very typical example is the health system, where health applications are better for men than for women, and often produce false results when it comes to symptoms or anything else that is more adapted to men than to women. So there is a big issue, and I think it's a global issue, but we are really not a role model for that in Germany, I have to say, because we have really a problem here, and we need to fix this problem all over the world to get women in this digital sector.
A well-known and old problem, I have to say. If I may share something personal, my mother said to me, "We are not good at math." So this is what I'm grown up with. What do you think? Where does it come from? By the way, she was good at math, better than me.
Yeah, and I know that also from my personal perspective, because I did studies in math, and I was one of like 5 girls among 100 boys who were studying mathematics at the University of Heidelberg like about 20 years ago. And it kind of feels not very comfortable sometimes to be just 1 or 2 or 3 girls in a mass of many boys, and that makes it difficult, and that makes it harder to girls. Can you still hear me?
I think we lost her. And maybe, is there anyone other?
Do you hear me?
I can hear someone. Now I hear you again.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm so
you can
sorry.
just repeat your last sentence and then continue.
Okay. Yeah. My last sentence was that it's harder for girls to be in a group which is dominated by boys or men, and to really stay on board and to really do their lectures and their tasks. Because often it's that the boys, they don't really want to cooperate with the girls than when they are just a few of them, and that makes it harder. And I think the system around is also a problem when we look to advertisement, when it comes to digital tools, when it comes to personal computers or whatever. You always see more men in advertisement, or when you go to firms who want to hire people, they often like write their job advertisements in a language that is really more for men or boys than for girls. So there are many fundamental problems in the whole systems that makes it much more easier for boys or men to get in this sector than for girls. And I think it's very important that we fix the education system, that we have really in the schools for all pupils, for male and female students, the same program when it comes to computer systems, to digital things that are happening in the school, and that we don't have that in Germany up to now, and I think it's the case in many other countries too. So we need to have it in the school for all men, for girls and boys. And then we also have to get the companies, the big firms, to change their mind and to really go forward and try to find women and to signal them, hey, we need you, because there are many jobs in this sector, and we need girls, we need women to be part of this fundamental process in our society. I mean, the digital transformation is very important for our whole society. So it's very important that our women are part of this transformation.
Yes, of course. So let's see what we can do. Tuko Sile, you are partnering with the German Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development on the so-called eSkills for Girls project. Please tell us about it. What is it?
All right. Yes. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes. So we're partnering on the eSkills for Girls program. And essentially, the eSkills for Girls program is a global initiative which was set up in order to be able to promote digital skills for women and for girls, right? So talking about that, again, we're crossing the digital divide and creating an access point for women to enter the technology industry. The digital transformation is changing the world and the way we live. It's changing the way we work and learn, and particularly for people in developing countries who are at high risk of being excluded from the benefits of digital transformation and change. Not to mention that worldwide, more than 250 million women and girls, fewer women have access to the internet, all right? That means that where there are men and women who have access to the internet, there's a deficit of 250 million women and girls, right? So this requires key participation, key economic participation, infrastructure, technology, but also it's a matter of being able to create the digital skills which are going to warrant for a greater digital access. But on top of that, it's about being able to enter into a society level enthusiasm in terms of changing the digital sector to one which is able to not show discrimination, but also to show an access point for women. So digital skills programs are running all over the world, and particularly in Africa. We have them in Cameroon, in South Africa, in Rwanda, in Ghana, and a few other of the African countries where digital skills are being jointly developed to be able to incorporate a greater access point. There's a skills coalition with Equals, who've come on as a multi-level stakeholder in partnerships to achieve gender equality in the digital age. So the Equal Skills Coalition aims to ensure that digital skills are taught to all children and to girls in particular, and members are improving on creating the database of women's digital skills and develop principles for gender-inclusive digital training. There's a digital skills fund, and this fund supports grassroots initiatives in scaling their digital skills trainings. There are recipients all over Africa, so for example, Rwanda had a skills training where they were doing QA training. We had as a part of the GIZ promotion of economy and employment program. Of course, the ICT sector is not entirely without its faults. There is, in the total jobs to industry, you have 27% of those jobs only who are filled by women. With ICT as a developing and burgeoning field, with the introduction of new technologies, communication technologies, with the rise of the Silicon Valley startup, only 20% of women are filling up those of those positions which have come up to be. So it comes as an economic underrepresentation, a misrepresentation, and a gender skills gap which needs to be addressed with due urgency. ICT and gender, I'm looking at the ITU statistics from 2017. Is showing here that globally the portion of men who can write a computer program is twice that of females. I am shocked. I say no, it's not supposed to be that way. Women should have as much access as men to industry and skills. So with that, eSkills for Girls, there are other partners who have been on board. There's a global program which is coming up around now, which is called the Africa Code Week. And as well as that, the eSkills is a setup for digital inclusion as well. you know, the joint long-term effects.
To us in Germany, excuse me, let me interrupt you for a moment because I want to ask a question to Anna Christmann. So the numbers you have told don't sound that bad from our point of view here in Germany. So what do you think, Anna Christmann? What can we learn from so-called developing countries?
Oh, I think in the ICT sector we can learn a lot because, I mean, we in Germany, we really have many challenges in this sector, beginning with the digital infrastructure, to be honest, because we really have a problem to get digital infrastructure to our schools and to all places where it is needed. And in some other places in the world, it's much better than in a highly industrial country as we are in Germany. So there we have really a problem. And also when it comes to women and ICT, we also see at other places better numbers, as we just heard. For example, when it comes to startups in the ICT sector, we have less than 10% women in this sector. And when we could look at the whole digital sector, where also like web designing and things are included, we are up to 30% maybe. But that's the highest number you can get when you count like everybody and all companies that have a link to the digital sector, I'd say. So there we really have more problems sometimes than in other countries. And I think it's because we have here this high tradition in these sectors that are dominated by men, because we have these sectors for a long time. We have this industry here in Germany, and it has been dominated by men over years and decades, and that it makes it very difficult to get a change into that, because we start from this domination by men. Then to change this, it's a big challenge, maybe compared to when you start with a new kind of sector and it's more open to people coming into it and starting it than when you have already a long tradition in this like male dominated sector. I think that could be one part of the problem. And I think it's really a pity, because in the beginning people thought that like coding would be perfect for women. There were like in the 60s debates about that women could really good do this kind of coding job, because it would be kind of like recipes. I mean, I don't like that argument so much, but nonetheless, there was the idea that women could play a big role in the ICT sector and in things like coding and developing programs. And I think it's really a pity that we get in a different direction and that we need to fix it now.
Okay, as we are talking about men, let's move over to another problem we have. We already mentioned it. Of course, it's not only men, but we know it's mostly men who harass young girls, young women online. So let's talk about protection in this sector. Aishatou, we have seen the results of the Plan International Girls report. They are shocking. More than half of girls and young women are harassed online, mostly for being online and being female. It's just as easy as that. So if you want to talk about it, if you want to share, did you have similar experiences? You already shared a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Oui. Je me rappelle quand j'avais 18 ans.
I remember when I was 18. At that time, I used the internet only for social networking, Facebook chats. And whenever I got a friend request, I did not look after my safety. I always accepted friend requests. And then I often got photographs sent to me that had a pornographic nature. And also from Africans, you know. Quite honestly, at that time, I was not informed that this was kind of cyberbullying or harassment. And okay, I deleted these contacts, but then I got an invitation from a very friendly man, and you know, he addressed me in a very friendly way. We were exchanging letters, we chatted quite a lot actually, and at some point he sent me a photo, but you know, he was half naked there, and actually this is what he sent to me. And then it turned out that this was not as friendly a man as I had thought. And then, you know, he wanted a naked picture of me. And then he suddenly sent me a photo on which I was depicted. And this was at a time where I had already been an activist. And if you get this type of photo, you really have to defend yourself, because if I had voiced this in my family, they would have told me, well, we told you so, then you shouldn't be on the internet, and then it's not a good thing that you have photos on your cell phone where you are half naked. So I simply blocked this man and I deleted this contact, but this person somehow had access to my photos. In other words, you know, I'm less talking about myself in this regard, but this was a way of protecting myself. And if I too publish something, that's yet another point. This has led to harassment, and this was associated with the content of my articles. And, you know, when thinking back to the request to send me a photo where I was naked, you know, if somebody publishes a photo of you naked online, and if you ask him to delete it, and if he doesn't, well, that's harassment. I have developed psychological mechanisms to avoid that. And now I talk about equal opportunities for men, for women and young girls, and I clearly voice my opinion. And then, you know, when voicing your opinion, you get comments, and in some instances, people say in their comments, we've all been to school and we are experts and we are informed about the educational aspect, and so on and so forth. But in many cases, it is true that if it is negative comments, I simply ignore them. And if there is a typo, they sometimes tell me like, oh, you made a typo. But the social networks are especially made for having an exchange.
Okay, so you have find your possibilities to defend yourself, but I suppose totally senseless to call the police or to, I don't know, to try to defend yourself legally in a way. Is that possible in Benin?
Well, you can't turn directly to the police, but what exists is an organization that deals with cybersecurity. So you can turn to it when it comes to your integrity, if you are attacked physically as a person, you can denounce this perpetrator, and then there can be investigations in order to catch the perpetrator. So it may exist in theory, but they are not working on that. So if a girl complains, you don't get the reaction you need. 58% are victims of cyber mobbing, and that's quite a lot. And ultimately, many girls are online only using their cell phones, so you really need to listen to the girls. You need to communicate the stories about these young women and girls, and I receive photos like that all the time, or that you are harassed because you didn't answer, because you didn't feel like answering.
It just sounds the same, like here in Germany. And this is the question for you, Anna Christmann. As someone who is engaged in civil rights and human rights, do you get these insults too? I would suppose to.
Not too many, to be honest, because I'm not so much into the into the topics that are really polarized in our society. I'd say that's why I don't get too many harassment or things like that online, which maybe I'm just lucky to don't have them too much. But we, of course, see it in Germany and in Europe and everywhere in the world a lot. And we try to fight it as partly also with legal issues. We, for example, had a new law now introduced against the so-called upskirting, where it used to be that men try to make photographs under skirts of girls and put them into the internet. And that's now a crime officially in Germany. So that is one way to really try to fight against these kinds of harassment against women. But it's, of course, a very difficult fight due to the reasons you just mentioned, that it's hard to get the people who use the internet to make it in an anonymous way, this kind of harassment. And I think we need to have the legal instruments to really get it to the police and to really make people to follow it.
There's in Germany the Netzdurchsetzungsgesetz.
Yes, that
Do you
would be
think it
the
helps?
second point I
Well, there
wanted
is
to
a
come.
law concerning internet security enforcement law.
Does she still hear me? Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Do you understand the question?
Yeah, our new law, like the internet enforcement law you mentioned, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't get the answer.
That is the second. Yeah, that is the second point I wanted to mention, like where we try to hold the big social media companies accountable, that they need to delete such comments that are harassment to women. So they are accountable to do that, but of course that's difficult because it's private companies that have to do it now, and it's hard to get it to really from a legal side. So there's still a challenge, but I think these are nonetheless important steps we made in Germany to get working instruments.
Okay, so let's move to the last question because we are running out of time. So we have talked many about the problems, the obstacles, but let's shortly talk about the opportunities you see, all the three of you, but please with a short answer. So I'm beginning with you, Thukazile. What do you think were the biggest opportunities for women in their fight for equality online? I can't hear
Sorry about that. I realized
okay.
I was on mute. Okay, talking about the greatest opportunities with having women online. Definitely when you are going to discriminate against a portion of the society, you're going to disenfranchise a portion of the society from taking place in a revolution. So the opportunities for women in accessibility create a real channel, a real access point for there to be a greater technological revolution, for there to be real-time access to technologically encompassing economic solutions towards real digital change. If we look at the projections in terms of economics if we look at the World Economic Forum projections from now to 2030 and beyond, if we look at the projections going on for the fifth and the sixth, the seventh industrial revolution, it comes to an enormous amount. And if we're going to look at societal change, it is technology which is proving to be the most equitable and the most likely solution to create real world challenges. So
yes, you're right. Thank you. Let's fast move over to Aisha too, excuse me, so that she can tell us what do you think are the biggest opportunities in ICT, social media, web for our fight for equality?
Je pense qu'avec l'Internet et le numérique, l'on peut faire des plaidoyers auprès du gouvernement.
I think that we have the possibility to give a pledge with our internet activities. I give statements, I launch appeals, and I report about what's going on, because the girls and young women, thanks to the internet and information technologies, they can communicate and they can also participate in education, even over larger distances. So the internet offers the possibilities for every young woman and girl to stay in touch and to express themselves and to educate themselves.
Okay, and last but not least, Anna Christman, please with a short answer.
Yeah, I mean, I can just agree. I think it's a big chance that we can really use not only the internet, but digital tools in many sectors to be actually a tool to get more female power into the world and in many, many sectors, and maybe also to show where we need really different approaches, female approaches, when it comes to, for example, the application processes for jobs in companies. I mean, we had a digital tool for that, with artificial intelligence that decided that only men would be great employees for a specific firm, and that showed that there needs to be a change and that there is already discrimination in many sectors, and we can also use the digital transformation to detect this kind of discrimination and to change it into something better. And therefore, it really, really needs to have more women in this sector, and I'll be happy to see that we get to that aim soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aishatu Salifu, Thokozile Mia, and Anna Christman, for sharing your thoughts with us. You stay with us a little bit longer because now we have our Q&A. So let's have a look at the questions. First question is for Aishatu. What could a digital space without online abuse or harassment look like for you, and what changes do you think are needed?
Un monde sans harcèlement des femmes, c'est un monde où il y a égalité.
I think we need a world with women giving women and men the same rights. This world would give a girl the same opportunities than a boy. So this girl would have the means in her hands to express herself. There would be no discrimination whatsoever. In this world, everyone would have the same opportunities, no misogynism, no blame, no reproaches.
Sounds good to me. Thokozile, what about the private dimension in empowering girls in getting coding and ICT skills? What are the consequences for the young women, e.g. reactions from family or young men? We have heard that from Benin, so tell us about South Africa. I can't hear you.
In South Africa, you can hear me now?
Yes.
In South Africa, we don't have the same problems in terms of gender disparity. I would definitely say that in South Africa, it comes through in terms of an economic disparity. And the exertion, the exercise of that economic disparity is put out in a form of gender inequality. So there aren't really systemic or religious barriers towards women's participation in economics or technology or in global dynamics. And so that's a wonderful thing. So South Africa has one of the most progressive constitutions in the world following the 1994 and the beginning of a new democracy. And so just in terms of that, from the dimensions of how South African civil is taking part in the economic change, there's a lot of support coming in from their side. There's a lot of action, but it needs to be a grander scale action, and it needs to be scalable in such a way that it's not perpetuating already institutionalized oppressive and marginal systems, but that it's actually opening up the door towards inclusivity, redress, readdress, redistribution, and reconciliation to the gender inequality, the gap, and also towards a payment gap, which lots of people don't talk about, but it exists and it's extremely painful in a lot of different ways. But just to say that it is not a situation that is not without resolution.
Next question is for Anna Christmann. What experience have you made as a woman in politics and spokesperson for digital affairs? I think we've heard this a little bit because we've talked about it some minutes ago. But maybe you can answer the second question that goes to you all. What would be the message you would give to other girls facing struggles to overcome gender stereotypes?
Yeah, the fun fact to the first question is that we are really many women in the German Bundestag in the digital affairs committee. So we have really from all parties women in this committee, and we really try also to have a joint try to get better in this sector. So this is like the Bundestag one time is better than the whole society when it comes to the proportion of women in a specific sector. That's kind of nice. And yeah, I just would encourage all girls that they just try it out, that they just see like their mobile phone or their personal computer or tablet not only as a tool to use it for like taking pictures or things like that, but really as a creative tool that they can use to do really cool stuff with, and that they can be the developer of this cool stuff. And this kind of approach not to only be a user, but really to try to get behind the things and try to get to know what you can do with it. And I think then many girls will find out that it is really a cool thing to develop your own programs, your own things. But of course, you also need support. It's not the default, that's not the fault of one specific girl, but you need the support of your maybe teacher, your family, that really also says, cool, you are interested in this stuff, and that's a really important thing for the society. So yeah, just do it. So this kind of support is a question for the whole society, and we really need it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is a nice question. Aisha too. Please tell us who inspires you.
Actually, my inspiration is not just one person. It comes from a whole group of people. That's the women in general who've inspired me. It's been women who've raised their voices, women who were not scared, who were not afraid. I'm really saying that it's not just one person, it's a whole group of influencers who've been moving forward, going forward, and been raising their voices.
Yes, and Tokosiri, we can say you are one of these influencers with Girl Hype. You just empower girls to take up STEM professions, as we've seen. So what would you say what is the change when they first come to you and then go knowing how to code and how to, I don't know, how to use ICT in a good way?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me this question, because this is a particularly beautiful transformation. And this is definitely the best part about what I do in creating change. It's definitely to say, I start teaching from the age of 16. And in the most phenomenal way, at 16, a girl from the township, from the ghetto, she doesn't necessarily know where she's going next. She doesn't necessarily know what's coming up for her. She doesn't know anything. All she knows is in the morning she has to get to school. She's going to have her next meal at school, and she's going to be lucky to have another nutritious meal when she gets home, because most likely it will be what the family can put together on that particular day. And so I'm just, for me, I've noticed one key trend. If you begin technology education from a younger age, the fear of technology can be eliminated. My most recent graduating school leaving class, leaving matric to go to university, had a 100% attrition rate into a computer science degree. That is phenomenal. I have never seen that happen or take place in any other kind of intervention before, which shows that there's two things. People actually, women, girls, want to learn technology. And secondly, that it's not difficult, it's not designed for men, that it needn't be designed by men, and that it's a completely acceptable study path and career if a woman is skilled enough. And these are girls that did take part in the eSkills for Girls program. So it does work. Honestly, when I have my women in business, almost 100% of them were women who were either previously unemployed or entrepreneurs who wanted to learn about technology because maybe they didn't have that element. They have a salon, but they never had a technology component to their business. And just to say to them that, these are the channels that you can follow. Again, 100% success rate into a technology related career. I myself am a website developer. I designed my first website when I was 11 years old, and today I am an income generator through website development. And so I definitely believe that technology is the greatest way to upskill, and to train a woman. You train a woman, you train a community. Because a woman is a leader, she is a mother, she is a daughter, she's a cousin, she's a sister, she's a neighbor, and it's proven that women are more likely to infiltrate skills taught to them into their community. So I definitely believe in the empowerment of women through technology, through skills, because that is where the world is at, and also it's where the world is now, especially for Africa. If Africa as a developing country is here to create the kind of African change which the world needs for the future, which is obviously invaluable, this skills of technology for women is of utmost importance.
Anna Christman, who inspires you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, my family is kind of an ICT family, where they have a company, and so I was quite young when I got my first personal computer, which was an Atari at that time, and I really started programming together with my brother, and having my father kind of inspiring me. So maybe I was lucky to have such a family surroundings that really supported me in this type. But today, people inspire me, like we are like in this debate here. I mean, I'm really impressed by the other women here in this discussion. Thank you so much for your input, and I think we have really great girls in the ICT sector that need to be seen really in the society, and we need more role models like this, and then I think that can have a big influence on younger girls, that they want to become also such influencers in a good way, in a way not only to have nice pictures, but in a way to be really active creators in the tech scene. And I think these kind of role models are really needed, and they are also inspiring me, of course.
Okay, thank you. So we have talked about influencers, about role models, about what inspires you, and all that. Let's say is kind of part of self-care, because when you have a goal, when you know a person and you think I just want to be like her, so maybe I think it gives you strength and it gives you hope. So this is a question for Tokosile, but I want to ask it to Aisha too, and maybe you can begin with your answer. Aisha, to self-care, you have talked about it a little bit earlier, how you react to these cringe, creepy guys online. But what more can one do for self-care?
D'abord, pour les filles, pour que les filles elles-mêmes se sauvegardent, c'est qu'elles doivent
Well,
apprendre à se
actually, for
protéger.
those
Pour
girls,
qu'elles apprennent à se protéger, c'est qu'on doit leur
they
apporter les
have to
ressources.
learn and protect themselves.
Organiser
For
plus de
example,
sensibilisation pour les
by
filles afin qu'elles puissent savoir comment
receiving
se
and
protéger.
accepting
Comment moi je
information.
me
It
protège
is
au niveau de mon code de sécurité
important to
spécifique, c'est
simulate
un bureau
situations.
qu'on ne
How
peut
can
même
I
pas
protect
détecter.
myself?
Il y a ça. Il y a aussi l'aspect de confidentialité au niveau des
And
médias
of course,
sociaux. Je
you
n'utilise pas
need
les mêmes mots de
to
passe pour tous les
learn
comptes.
this. Then you need
J'utilise un mot de
trust
passe
and
pour
confidence
pour chaque compte des
in
réseaux sociaux. Il y a que aussi
your
au niveau de Gmail, j'ai
own
connecté mon compte Gmail à mon compte Facebook.
accounts,
De sorte qu'on
and
va
I have a
pouvoir pirater
separate
mon compte
password
sans
for all
même
my
pas
accounts.
demander
I have Gmail,
l'explication.
I have
La
Facebook,
dernière fois,
and I
lors du
have
lancement du
several
rapport,
accounts.
on nous a dit qu'il ne faut pas
And of
localiser
course,
les publications. Quand vous
I
localisez une publication,
give
ça permet à
seminars about the
n'importe qui
use
de
of
savoir
such
où vous êtes
media.
et de connaître
For
vos différentes
example, if
publications
you're
dessus.
able to
Voilà des aspects que les
locate a
filles, on doit pouvoir leur
publication,
apprendre à se
you
protéger elles-mêmes.
know
Parce que je
who
dis une chose,
else
peu importe ce que les
has
propriétaires
dealt
des
with
médias
that
sociaux
content. So
feront,
what is
peu
really
importe ce que
important, you
les
benefit from
gouvernements
the
feront,
media.
il y aura toujours des
And
personnes
no
bien mal
matter
intentionnées qui vont venir
what your
vous
own
envoyer des
government can
messages
tell you
ainsi.
and
Donc,
give you,
le premier aspect, c'est
there are
d'apprendre
always
aux filles à
evil
se
people
protéger,
who
de leur
will
montrer
send
l'intérêt
you
de l'Internet, ce
messages.
qu'elles gagnent en étant sur les réseaux sociaux et apprendre à se protéger. Voilà.
So you need to be able to dissociate that and understand what the mechanisms are and where the true evil lies.
Okay, Tokosile, what is your advice for self-care, to staying healthy online for girls?
Okay, so I would have definitely taken, instead of an online portion, sorry, I just misunderstood your question. So in terms of health, what I wanted to say is a big part about learning is being able to experience learning, being able to experience the workplace. Where I found the greatest success has been in the girls or women who have been given access to enter into the industry. When you provide an entry point, when you provide a place where women and girls can enter into industry, whether it's something as simple as a careers day, going into a workplace, going into an office, learning what people in a particular job do, job shadowing. Those kinds of experiences are so crucially important. Speaking to high-level individuals, do you know what the job description of a CEO is? Do you know what a CEO does? Do you know what a CEO earns? Do you know where a COO lives and where they shop? Those are extremely important things so that people can understand, and especially girls and young women, how to become their own aspirations in life. And that's a very important part of self-care, being able to experience industry, experience the workplace, learn networking skills, network often and with the right people, especially in technology environments. And absolutely 100% experiential learning is definitely going to be the key to providing opportunity, especially because it was never there before, because there was no access point for the woman or for the girl child. So for them to see and experience industry is so crucial.
Okay, Anna Crispin, in 20 seconds, your advice for self-care online for women especially.
just do it is my advice. I think, and don't get yourself to be intimidated by any harsh comments or harassment. Just like stay cool and go there and try to meet other people you can connect with to get to be stronger in a joint effort in this tech sector. That would be my advice.
Okay, thank you, Aishatu Salifuto, Cecilia Mia, and Anna Christman for sharing your thoughts and feelings tonight with us. It was a very interesting, inspiring, and heartwarming talk tonight with you. Thank you. So, now we have Maike Röttger again here. She is CEO of Plan International Germany. Thank you for being here again on stage. We want to talk a little bit about what we've heard today, this evening, which is great, I can say. But what was the most impressing moment or statement of the last 1.5 hours?
Well, I'm still quite flashed. So, I mean, that was such a rich discussion, and there was such a power in there, and so much spirit in there. Actually, it's always hard to have a ranking in there, but of course, I was very impressed by the barriers Aishatu has to overcome to really not only live her dreams, but also get into those opportunities of information and education. And I think that became very clear how important in that sense social media and everything around IT and digital world is, and how she does it even without the backup of her family. Yes, of course, that was I think the most impressive thing. But I don't want to leave the other 2 panelists out. ICT for eSkills for Girls is a very, very important initiative, which is very much driven by the Chancellor Merkel, and she puts it on the high-level summits, G20 and G7, and that actually means it needs this high-level political commitment. The same what we heard from Anna, also to encourage girls to get into this space and to have this self-esteem and be a good mathematic. So
not that bad.
No. Not looking at you. Good look at me, myself.
What was especially interesting to me, if I may say, was that it is so similar all around the world. Yes, of course, we don't have the problems like in Benin, in society, just keeping girls away from the phone, but the harassment, and as you have seen in your survey, it's the same all over the world. What do you think? Why is it like that? And what can we do?
Well, again, I end with what I started with. Why is it? It's because the harassment is around being female and being young and being silenced. And we have to be vulnerable and also this is not your role. You as a female, this is not your role to be in there. This is not a role to use this for your activism and for your information.
So it's about power.
Of course, always. Yes, and gender inequality. It's right about this, and I think we all agree this is not the way it should be, and we should stand up for the rights of the girls and women in the digital, the same as in the non-digital space, of course.
And if you would wrap up a little bit, what would you take home from this evening tonight? What are your maybe an advice for self-care online, or what we all can do to make it better?
Well, what I would, of course, also take home as for us as Plan International worldwide, I think this is exactly the right topic to be in. Because it is also a topic for development. We cannot leave half of the world, the female world, out of this development, and this is actually the heart of the work. So this is the same importance as we say, well, every girl has to go to school, the same as every boy has to go to school, and then it goes also in this one. So and we have to listen to their voices, and these voices today were as strong as yesterday, and we have to listen to their demands. And this is actually what we heard out of also our study, is there needs to be change, and we want to see this change in social media, especially from the platform owners at the moment.
Yes, and as far as I know, it's a very good indicator for development. So there's a high correlation between a good or better position of girls and women in a society and the development of this society in what concerns economic and all the other politics and all the other fields we have to work on.
Yes, so education and development relates together, and digital and social media is part of education. So I think Aisha too also told us how important this is around the topic of everything what she needs to know about sexual reproductive health. They need those informations, and there are also a lot of development projects around this to get information through those digital media. So and this information needs to get to the girls as in the same amount as to the boys.
Yes, I've seen that in a project in Colombia with a radio station. So I think it must be even easier or faster via social media.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And especially in the pandemic world, where we not reach every village or every child by a car or by foot, we need to use every media we can get.
By every mean.
Yes.
Yes. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about plans of Plan for the next few years concerning all we have talked about this evening.
Well, we have this strong focus on gender equality, and I'm also looking at the picture in your bag. I mean, you can see these very strong young women there, and they are demanding change. So it's not something we want to give to them. They're demanding it, and they're so right to demand it. And we have to listen to them, and we will listen, and we will bring their voices to every table where decisions are made. So they also have to take leadership, and they have to get access to this. So social media is a tool to do that. This is what we will achieve within the next years. And actually, I guess the girls are always saying nothing will stop us, and no, nothing will stop us in this. And I guess they still need support. And to come back on to the report we have just launched, this is the support we are asking at the moment. Go and sign this petition so we can really do the next step in this area and talk to the platform owners for change.
And as we have some minutes left, maybe you can talk a little bit about. I forget the question. I knew it.
Well,
I knew it in the moment. I knew it, and then I forgot. You were talking about we were talking about the obstacles this is interesting to me too, because you as a organization, do you have any problems in the countries where you're working? Because I've heard about the problems you have offline sometimes when you're empowering girls, and this is against the tradition, let's say, in the country. So is there something similar for online, for work online?
Well, the obstacles at the moment are with what we have heard about, first of all, access, and then especially protection for the girls in there. So I think there is no difference between the online space and the non-online space in terms of barriers for the girls or for us as an organization.
But there is no hate against Plan, or
no,
is there something?
No, because we work in the countries we work as a grassroots organization, very close with the communities, and also very close with the governments, because you will never get change if you don't work together with everyone. And again, it's actually the girls and also the boys who will demand their rights in front of the governments, and they will influence them to change the laws. So this is also a power of education and development.
Okay, so then last question for today. What would you wish for? What should be the best outcome of this summit this year? Well, the best would be that we can follow what the girls demanded in this report, and this is sit down with the platform owners and really get them worldwide to identify the perpetrators, also to change the attitude of society around this, not to accept that this is the tone or this is what happens in social media, and then you have to accept it if you are in there. No one has to accept it, and we have to talk about gender roles in this. So this is how we respect each other, men and women, girls and boys, and of course this is a long-term thing, but it always starts, and well, we already have done the start, but this is of course something in, I don't know, 2022, we should be a big step forward. But the next step is to sit down and really the girls, listen to the girls and take them seriously. Okay, Maike Röttger, CEO of Plan International Germany, thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for being with us here and for joining us to the Girls Get Equal Life Summit, the first online, and for your questions and watching our panel. And now don't miss the video about the open letter. We mentioned that 6 young women wrote to social media companies. It will be right here in the stream in a few seconds. And I have to say, just in the end, let's move forward. We heard it together. Let's stay strong, let's stay wild, and let's stay loud. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Dear Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter, we represent the 14,000 girls from 22 countries who spoke to Plan International about online abuse. We are urgently asking you to work with us to end online harassment on your platforms. We love them. They're a huge part of our daily lives. We use them not just to connect with friends, but to lead and create change. But they are not safe for us. We get harassed and abused on them every single day. We are physically threatened, racially abused, sexually harassed, and body shamed. Online violence is serious. It causes real harm, and it's silencing our voices. As this global pandemic moves our lives online, we are more at risk than ever. Did you know that 50% of us face more online harassment than street harassment? And 42% of us lose self-esteem or confidence as a result. Online violence shapes our identity while telling us what's wrong with our identity. Girls are harassed for their ethnicity and race. And girls who identify as LGBTIQ+ are harassed for being themselves. We are told if we can't handle the harassment, we shouldn't be on social media. That's messed up. We shouldn't have to cope and shrink ourselves in an unfair system. The world needs to stop normalizing online violence. We know that many of you are taking steps to make your platforms safer. That's awesome. Thank you. But right now, it's not enough. Girls in all our diversity need to know that when we're abused and threatened online, we can report it and you'll take action. Our practical solution? Be our allies. Speak to us, listen to our experiences. Work with us to create stronger reporting mechanisms for violence that meet girls' needs and hold perpetrators to account. The time to act is now, so girls are free to be online. We'll be waiting for your call.